Hello and welcome to Annie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Haunted Hospital of Ryde. Holly Arnold stepped off the ferry, the salty sea breeze of the Isle of Wight swirling around her as she gazed at the picturesque island. Known for its natural beauty and historical charm, the quaint town of Ryde seemed an unlikely setting for the chilling tales she had come to investigate. Yet the stories surrounding the old Ryde Hospital were too compelling and too unnerving to ignore. As a journalist who specializes in debunking urban legends and exploring haunted locations, Holly had seen her fair share of supposedly paranormal phenomena. Most turned out to be hoaxes, easily explained by creaky floorboards or overactive imaginations. But the reports from Ryde Hospital were different. They were persistent, detailed, and came from credible sources: former patients, staff, even local police officers. Holly adjusted her backpack, her notebook and flashlight tucked inside, and set off toward the hospital, determined to uncover the truth. A shadowed history. The hospital, built in 1845, had served the island for over a century before closing its doors in 1990. Now it stood abandoned, a decaying monument to a bygone era. Its Gothic architecture loomed ominously against the darkening sky, its shattered windows staring like empty eyes. Ivy crept up the walls, giving the building a desolate, forgotten appearance. Rumors of hauntings had circulated for years, but recently the disturbances had escalated. Apparitions drifted through the halls, disembodied voices whispered in the night, and objects moved on their own. Some claimed to have been touched by unseen hands, their skin left cold and clammy. Others spoke of miraculous recoveries or sudden, unexplained illnesses that defied medical logic. Holly's first stop was the local library, where she met Dr. Eleanor Whitfield, a historian who had written extensively about the hospital's dark past. Dr. Whitfield, a petite woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, welcomed Holly warmly. "I've been expecting you," Dr. Whitfield said, leading Holly to a quiet corner of the library. "The hospital has a history that many would prefer to forget." Over the next hour, Dr. Whitfield recounted the hospital's shadowed past. In 1887, a devastating fire had swept through the East Wing, claiming the lives of 27 patients and staff. The cause of the fire was never determined, but rumors persisted that it was set intentionally to cover up unethical experiments conducted by the hospital's chief surgeon, Dr. Reginald Blackwood. Dr. Blackwood was a brilliant but troubled man, Dr. Whitfield explained. He was obsessed with finding a cure for tuberculosis, which was rampant at the time. It said he experimented on patients without their consent, using untested and often barbaric methods. Holly's interest was piqued. "Is there any evidence to support these claims?" Dr. Whitfield nodded. "There are diaries and letters from the time that hint at his activities, but much of the documentation was lost in the fire. What remains is circumstantial at best." Into the hospital. After thanking Dr. Whitfield, Holly decided to visit the hospital itself. As she approached the imposing building, its presence seemed to grow heavier, darker. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. She pushed open the creaking front door and stepped inside, her flashlight beam cutting through the blackness. The lobby was littered with debris: broken chairs, shattered glass, and old medical equipment lay scattered about, as if frozen in time. As she explored the ground floor, Holly couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Faint whispers echoed through the corridors, but when she stopped to listen, they ceased. Shrugging it off as her imagination, she continued her investigation. In a records room, she found a trove of old patient files and administrative documents. Among them was a journal that caught her eye. The leather-bound book was inscribed with the initials R.B. Reginald Blackwood. Holly carefully opened the journal, its pages yellowed with age. The entries detailed Dr. Blackwood's experiments, confirming the rumors of his unethical practices. He wrote of injecting patients with experimental serums, performing surgeries without anesthesia, and even delving into the occult in his quest for a cure. One entry sent a chill down Holly's spine. "The veil between life and death is thin. I have seen things that no man should see. The spirits of the departed are restless, and they seek vengeance." Holly closed the journal, her mind racing. If Dr. Blackwood had indeed dabbled in the supernatural, it could explain the hauntings. but she needed more evidence. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to spend the night in the hospital. She set up her sleeping bag in one of the less dilapidated rooms and prepared for a long night. Night terrors. As the hours passed, the temperature dropped and an unnatural silence settled over the hospital. Holly tried to sleep, but she was jolted awake by a loud bang. She sat up, her heart pounding, and listened intently. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, slow and deliberate. Holly grabbed her flashlight and crept towards the door. Peering out, she saw nothing but darkness. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they stopped right outside her room. Holly held her breath, waiting. Then, a whisper so faint she almost missed it. "Help us." The voice was that of a child, plaintive and scared. Holly's skin prickled with goosebumps. She stepped into the hallway, her flashlight beam sweeping the area. There was no one there. Suddenly, a figure materialized at the end of the corridor, a translucent apparition of a young girl in a hospital gown. Her eyes were hollow, and she beckoned to Holly with a ghostly hand. Holly's instinct was to flee, but her curiosity and sense of duty compelled her to follow. The girl led her through the winding corridors, past rusted gurneys and crumbling walls, until they reached the basement. The basement was a labyrinth of dark, damp rooms. The air was thick with the stench of mold and something else, something metallic, like blood. The girl stopped in front of a heavy iron door and pointed. Holly approached the door, her hands trembling as she turned the rusted handle. The door creaked open, revealing a hidden laboratory. The room was filled with antiquated medical equipment, jars of preserved specimens, and a large operating table stained with dark, ominous blotches. On a dusty shelf, Holly found a collection of journals and notebooks. Flipping through them, she discovered detailed accounts of Dr. Blackwood's experiments. He had been attempting to harness the power of the soul, believing that by capturing the essence of the dying, he could create the serum to cure any disease. But his experiments had gone horribly wrong. Instead of curing patients, he had trapped their souls within the hospital, binding them to the physical world. The fire, it seemed, was set by Dr. Blackwood himself to destroy the evidence of his atrocities, but it had also sealed the fate of the trapped spirits. The malevolent spirit. As Holly read, the temperature in the room plummeted, and the lights flickered. Shadows danced on the walls, and a low, menacing growl filled the air. She turned to see the ghostly figure of Dr. Blackwood, his eyes burning with malevolent intent. "You should not have come here," he hissed, his voice echoing unnaturally. "The secrets of this place are mine to keep." Holly backed away, but the door slammed shut behind her. The spirits of the patients appeared, their faces twisted in agony, surrounding Dr. Blackwood. It was clear they were under his control, bound to him by his dark rituals. Desperate, Holly searched for a way to free the spirits. She remembered a passage from Dr. Blackwood's journal about the ritual to release the souls. It required destroying the object to which the souls were bound. Her eyes fell on a peculiar amulet hanging around Dr. Blackwood's neck. It glowed with an eerie light, pulsating with energy. That must be it, she thought. Summoning her courage, Holly lunged at the ghostly doctor, reaching for the amulet. Her hand passed through his form, but she managed to grasp the amulet. With all her strength, she yanked it free and hurled it to the ground. The amulet shattered, and a blinding light filled the room. The spirits screamed, their forms writhing as they were released from their torment. Dr. Blackwood's ghost let out a furious roar before dissipating into nothingness. When the light faded, the basement was silent. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and Holly felt the sense of peace wash over her. The spirits were finally free. Dawn breaks. Exhausted but triumphant, Holly made her way out of the hospital. As she stepped into the morning light, she knew that the haunted hospital of Ryde would haunt her no more. The island's beauty seemed brighter now, and shadowed by the darkness that had lingered for so long. Holly took a deep breath, the sea breeze cleansing her of the night's terrors, and headed back to the ferry. She had a story to write, one that would honor the spirits and ensure Dr. Blackwood's atrocities were never forgotten. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had a great day.